Today we're going to talk about the 3 common mistakes that students make when it comes to English exams, and these mistakes can seriously impact their grades, but also it can knock their confidence. But the most important thing is to remember that these are things that can be fixed. You'll need to know this because avoiding these mistakes is going to help your child write more clearly, manage their time better, and improve their confidence when it comes to exams. By the end of this episode, you'll know exactly how to avoid these mistakes and maximise your child's performance in English exams. Before we start, don't forget to click the link below to join my free Facebook group for more support and free resources. Now let's dive in. Mistake number 1 is misreading the question. Now why this happens is because students essentially rush into answering the question. They feel possibly the time pressure and they just want to get on with writing the question. And therefore they don't fully understand what the question is before answering. In my sessions, I tackle this by ensuring that students underline keywords, highlight command terms, and rewrite the question in their own words so that they fully understand what's being asked of them. I'll give you an example. One of my students consistently lost marks because she kept missing the crucial part of the question. She'd answer everything else but would actually forget the command word. So once she started using this strategy, her answers became more sharper and the focus was a lot clearer. Therefore, that allowed her to gain those higher marks. It's so important to me that students understand that there's a technique to answering questions and scoring high marks, and therefore the first and most crucial part of that is to understand the question, because that forms the foundation of all of your answers. If you get that wrong, everything else falls apart. Now let's move on to mistake number 2. Mistake number 2 is poor time management. This is an extremely common problem that students suffer with. Most parents that come to me will either come to me with this problem as soon as mocks have ended or tests have shown that their child has not been able to complete the question paper. And the reason this happens is because students spend so much time on 1 or 2 particular questions that they don't leave enough time for the rest. The way to address this is to do something that I call time planning. And how you do this, or how I do this in my sessions, is that I show students how much time they can allocate to each section. So if they've got an exam which is in sections, how much time they have per section, and then we go deeper as to how much time they exactly have to spend on each question. This ensures that we've allocated the correct amount of time per question. Therefore, this ensures that they can keep on track and answer all the questions within the allocated time. Students in particular don't do this because they don't practice in timed conditions. So another easy way of addressing this is to practice in timed conditions. I do this in my tuition sessions every single session, and the more you practice this, the better it's going to become. If your child's practicing individually, what I would suggest is that they allocate time each week to sitting down in timed condition answering questions and giving themselves that allocated time that they need to answer those questions. This should hopefully ensure that they have enough time left over to proofread their work as well. This is extremely important because it reduces the amount of stress and anxiety that a child has when it comes to the exam. So if you imagine consistently not being able to complete a test actually builds on that stress and the anxiety. And the way to address it is to effectively manage that issue. So managing your time is effectively going to make that big difference. And especially when they allocate more time to the questions that weigh more, that's going to be super, super important and helpful for them. Let's move on to mistake number 3. Mistake number 3 is weak structure or poor structure. This is something that I'm very passionate about due to my legal career, but also my time as a tutor, 13 years. This is something that I see very often. And this is something that happens because the student hasn't essentially planned their work. This leads to points being made and there's a lack of flow or structure in their work. In my sessions, I suggest that students use a particular framework that works for them. So your child could use something like PEAL or PETAL. So PEAL is point, evidence, explanation and link, or petal, where you've got point, evidence, technique, analysis, and link. I encourage students to spend some time planning their answers before writing them up, and they should use these frameworks to help them. I've had students who have great ideas, and when they speak to me about them, it sounds amazing, but they always lose marks because their writing is disorganised. They lack that structure. One of the most important things when it comes to essay writing is structure. It allows your work to be more focused and impactful, and therefore helps significantly improve the final grade. So see which framework works best for your child, whether it's peel or petal, and that should hopefully help you tackle that issue. This is so important to me because a strong structure not only helps your child in exams, but also allows them to have clarity in their thoughts, and this is a lifelong skill that they will be learning. So to recap, we focused on 3 common mistakes that students make when it comes to English exams. The first one being misreading the question, the second one being poor time management, and the last being weak structure. Now, each of these can be addressed with the strategies that I've discussed with you and will help boost your child's confidence and their overall performance. Your next steps for today's episode are for you to click on the link to join my free Facebook community and say hi to me. And number 2 is to practice the strategies that we've covered today and see how your child finds them. Until next time, happy studying.